in EADA. Sorry.
Yes.
We ended up talking about who had the responsibility of implementing sustainability. Was the government, was the customers. And it was a little bit of an empty discussion because everybody is responsible. But with this question, the idea is to go a little bit deeper in, if you do something, who told you to do that? And how did you learn the most technical issues? Is there some external pressure? Is it how did you generate the knowledge? And if there is an external provider of knowledge, who is that?
Yes, in the case of the European legislation, I think we can say some things. No,
for example,
yes, all these new law starting January 1st, 2025. Well, the policies now that are very important in Catalonia, no, yes, that oblige you as an enterprise to achieve some targets from now on. Maybe we can talk about that. I think it's important because it's not very well known, no?
Yeah,
so we can,
absolutely. And sometimes, like with this maybe mischosen word authority, it's more of what is the pressure, what is the source of the pressure. It could be the competition, it could be governments, it could be customers. So I think, yeah, it is a very open question.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Peggy.
Hello, hola. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I had a little bit of technical issues today.
We too, don't worry. We are all starting to align. And I think that maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, we can start.
Oh, fantastic. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Peggy. Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you, Peggy. So I will just make sure that the technical service is not sending me additional messages, and then I will get back to you in a moment. So we are also recording the event. So if anybody couldn't connect, realize that the link was changing, we will make sure that they don't miss this meeting. Okay. They tell me that we can start. So welcome everybody. And sorry for the last minute changes with the link. We are happy and all present today in this 7th Sustainable Fashion Forum. And the title of this event this year is A Matter of Climate, Circular Fashion Economy in the Trashion Era. We are very happy with this. For the ones who didn't know about the Sustainable Fashion Forum, it is an event that is organized every year by the Associación Moda Sostenible Barcelona. Maria is the president of the association, and she's also with us today. And I'm very thankful to all the speakers who have been so flexible and positive and happy to join. The event will last approximately an hour and a half. It is articulated as follows. We will have a 10 minutes presentation by each of the speakers, and then we will open the floor to a set of questions, open questions to the table members. We will also accept questions from the audience, so you are more than welcome to interact, and I will be the moderator. So if you want to send me direct messages, I think that there is no problem. So if you agree, without any further ado, I would leave the word to our first wonderful speaker, who is Hakan Karaosman. He is a very, very, very knowledgeable academic, award-winning scientific researcher, and his focus of research is the fashion supply chain and sustainability in the fashion supply chain. Can I add anything else, Hakan, or I will let your wise word inspire us?
Thank you so much, Federica. I'm so pleased to be here. Hi, everyone. Good evening from Italy. I'm connecting from Italy. So those whomever coming from different regions, so have a great day. I'm so pleased to be here. I think this is a very important conversation to challenge the status quo. And I'm thrilled to actually be here with you to actually ask some questions, which we should be actually discussing. I have prepared a quick presentation and I am hoping you will be able to see it. And
Perfectly.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. So here I would like to walk you through a quick story. I'll talk about fashion, but the fashion which I would like to talk is a system in which social and environmental justice exists. So in this beautiful picture, we are seeing a gown behind which we are also seeing emissions and pollutions. So my main question to open today's discussion is what is fashion and how we can really redefine our relationship to clothing while considering all of these social and environmental consequences. And also to provoke our thoughts a little bit further, I want to open the speech with a differentiation between the change that we need to face. We are in a moment in which social and environmental crises are intertwined, and we really need a radical paradigm shift and paradigm change. However, we are having two different levels. First order change, which is the change that happens on the surface with incremental actions, whereas second order change is the change in the system, a global and radical shift. So I would like to underline one important thing. Today, the fashion industry is approaching incremental change by claiming change is happening in the radical forms. So here, I would like to accentuate the importance of system change. Today, what we are seeing is actually a landscape in which we are having lots of problems and contradictions. Fashion is a system in which millions of workers are working. However, fashion is one of the few industries in which globally dispersed and fragmented supply chains have millions of workers. To be precise, we are talking about 300 million people working across fashion supply chains across the world. However, the power is not a very balanced construct in the fashion system. We are absolutely having brands that have the financial power, but the knowledge and technical power is coming from suppliers that we are not empowering. In today's setting, we are seeing that fashion is actually producing more than 100 billion garments a year with societal and environmental consequences. So today we are still facing a financial growth paradigm. Everything we are talking about sustainability is again just trying to make growth and financial growth a little bit eco-efficient. And this is what I would like to provoke our thoughts a little bit further. What are we really talking about when we talk about sustainability? So in this setting, we are seeing some really... Yes, thank you very much for muting the microphone. And so we are really seeing some intertwined problems in terms of social and environmental sustainability. However, we are also looking for some solutions. Here on the right part, I would like to underline some actions that are actually happening today in the fashion system. We are seeing some industrial actions. We are not the only ones talking about sustainability. We are really seeing a conversation and awareness around different ecosystems in which people are trying to look for solutions. And we are seeing some industrial actions, which is great. We are also seeing some policy interventions. Now also policy making is making some really clear and robust suggestions. Fashion has been identified as one of the red alarm industries because of societal problems and environmental consequences. So now policies are actually trying to make things move forward, how we can really bring due diligence across fashion operations, how we can really ensure fashion operations don't stay in operational and organizational boundaries, but it can become a cultural construct across supply chains. And the third one, which I am seeing from the multi-stakeholder initiatives. We are seeing pledges, commitments, roundtables. So we are seeing some improvements to make fashion somehow less unsustainable and more inclusive. Here, I also would like to accentuate the importance of policies. I'm sure we will come to this with some questions at the end, but here European Union is actually setting some rules to play the ground in a fair way. And we are today talking about European Union Green Deal and Circular Economy Action Plan, in which textile industry is becoming an important industrial setting to talk about sustainability and to transform a system. Okay, so until now, I just try to put the landscape. Everything sounds easy, everything sounds interesting, but we have some important issues which we should be tackling. Why are we still here talking about sustainability? This is not a new discourse. We have been aware of these problems for decades, but still climate change is real, and just the global temperature is rising and rising. We are still having social welfare problems across the world. So then what is our problem that we can really not create a system change to transform things? In the previous slide, I mentioned some actions at the industrial level, at some, I will say, decision-making level. Now here, I would like to explain what my research is showing. I'm a social science researcher. I have been investigating fashion supply chains for more than 9 years. And to start with, my mother was a dressmaker, and she was a home worker, raising me by sewing dresses. And she was always behind the scenes. And here, the issues which I would like to highlight are coming from not only my research, but also from my personal life. Number one problem is power. Fashion is a system in which everything is paralyzed because of self-centered and ego-driven power relations. So power holders on the top that make decisions don't have technical knowledge or don't have emotional closeness with their suppliers. In the fashion system, again, we are talking about a very dispersed network with millions of people, but this system is so detached. We are not really forming partnerships with supply chain partners. People that make decisions are taking transactional steps towards sustainability, whereas sustainability that has a dynamic nature require partnerships and relations. So the first imbalanced power relations is one of the biggest impeders. We don't distribute wealth and power with the supply chain members that need to be part of this conversation. This brings me to my next point. Representation is the most important social construct. I have been involved in many roundtables whereby we are coming up with commitments, suggestions, pledges, promises. I am not seeing enough representation. Everything that the industry is deciding upon is held in a very top-down approach. So we are not ensuring representation and inclusion is there unless we hear the voices of people that are affected by this very system. We cannot change things that we should be changing. So these are some social constructs which I would like to bring upon to really transform the system. Unless we put people which are the workers and farmers or anyone that work across fashion supply chains in the center, we cannot change this broken system. Fashion is a system which is broken. We cannot really survive things with incremental actions. If we talk about circularity, we really should be honest and clear with scientific, independent, and really robust measures to understand how things can become operationalized in the field. To do this, we really need to form multi-stakeholder partnerships with workers being in the center. Sustainability has a very paradoxical nature. When we do something on one aspect, we have unintended consequences for the other aspect. So we see these tensions between environmental and social sustainability all the time. To prevent these contingencies, we really need to craft a social dialogue with people that will be affected by these decisions. One of the problems in the fashion industry, we always want quick solutions but quick solutions are always wrong solutions. And decisions that are made at the top level with assumptions are the bottleneck. Today, we are still not talking about what should change. What should change is the perception about fashion and fashion operations. Fashion is not one-man show any longer. Fashion is just one company's, let's say, window dressing strategy. Fashion is about people that make this industry so profitable. But fashion, being so rapacious, are actually creating this landscape in which people and things come at the expense of people. I would like to just invite all of us to think about our relationship to clothing, our relationship to nature, and our relationship to one another. Fashion is a very people-intensive industry, but unless we put people in the center, nothing can actually become just, inclusive, and respectful.
Recording in progress.
People. So these are my just quick suggestions to open the discussions, but I'm happy to answer your questions at the end. And this is our research technically. What we are doing is at the University College Dublin, we are working on just transition, and we are trying to understand how we can really craft a system with people in the center. We are not happy with top-down solutions or with really capitalist and green capitalist agendas. We are trying to understand how circularity can be inclusive and people-centered to make sure fashion can become more than less unsustainable. So these are my final takeaways, and I would like to thank for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer questions if there's any afterwards. So Federica, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a million, Hakan, for your words, and also it was great to have you as the starter of the conversation, because you could provide data and also the insight from your research. The idea of having multi-stakeholder partnership, I think, is finally taking, I don't know if place, but it's gaining a space in the mind of people, and it's gaining legitimacy. And I think it's also the reason why we're here together, representing different sectors. And that's why the next speaker is Mireia Cañellas, responsible for sustainable development of the Generalitat de Catalunya, el Pacte para la Moda Circular, who hopefully can complement Hakan's vision and give us a little bit of her perspective. Mireia, we can see your presentation. So
yes, yes, can you see? Yes, excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, okay, it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thanks a lot to the Barcelona Moda Sostenible for inviting us, and I will shortly explain you an initiative that we are promoting as the Catalan government. So I think Hakan, let me see if I manage to go through the presentation. Yes, Hakan has already presented very well that we have a big environmental problem with the textile sector, since it's a sector that implies one of the biggest environmental problems, not only regarding resources and waste, but also regarding climate, as the title of the conference. And in Catalonia, I will not say the world figures, because Hakan has already mentioned some of them. But in Catalonia, we have also a very important problem, and this problem has been increased during the last years. As you can see, here we have as an average 21 kilos of textile consumption per person and per year. And we collect selectively less than 12% of this textile. And this means that all of the rest of the volume of the textile consumed goes directly to its energetically valorized or go to landfill, which means that we lose a lot of material that could be used, and we produce big pollutions, and we use water and gas emissions. So we have an important problem in Catalonia. But in Catalonia and in the rest of the world. But at the same time, we have been seeing that there is some transformation on the way. And also it's very important to mention that consumers every time are changing, and we want to think that they prefer some firms that has some values. So the fast fashion is little by little less follow. So the first important thing that push us very much, and Hakan has also mentioned that we have very important regulations that push in this direction. We have the European level that Hakan has already mentioned. We have the Spanish level, national law, and we have a regional level also some important regulations that are very much important. And I would like to mention that the different regulations are introducing the extended producer responsibility as a very important instrument to promote circularity. And at the same time, in parallel to regulation, there is also important efforts, initiatives, both some of them will be explained today, that also are very positive in the direction of circularity. So in this framework of problems and also at the same of opportunity, we decided to launch an agreement, a voluntary agreement that we have been working during this year to set the technical basis, and we would like to launch this pact next year. So this agreement promotes a voluntary agreement between different kind of public and private stakeholders from all the value chains towards a more sustainable and circular production of textile. I would like to mention that these initiatives, it has been considered as a pilot action into the Interreg Europe CIRSE. And we select this action into this European project because Catalonia has a long textile tradition. So we want to take advantage of those textile industry that are still alive in our country and help them to transform that, but in a sustainable way, and also to try to promote a much more local production of textile. So we select stakeholders from all the links of the value chains, going from the production company to the distribution and marketing company, waste manager, local and regional governments, academia, the third sector, and civil society. And we have been working with all those stakeholders during 1 year in order to set the basis of the agreement. So which is the scope of this agreement goes from the eco-design to recyclability, durability, to recycled fibers, and all the different items you can see on the slide, until also to promote a much more awareness of the consumers. Okay, and how are we working in this agreement? So we set 3 big strategic goals that we believe we have to accomplish. And we managed to quantify the 3 goals. So we think that for the first time, for the first side, we have to reduce the generation of textile waste up between 5 and 10% in 2 years. We want to increase the selective collection up to 25 or 30%, so it's quite an important increase. And we want to increase the valorization of textiles, both through reusing and also to increase the recycling material into new products. So how can we accomplish those three strategic goals? Through the establishment of different specific objectives to be accomplished by the different links. I'm not going to explain all the specific objectives, but I want just to say that each link of the value chains that will participate to the agreement will have to implement different kind of objectives. For example, manufacturers will have to integrate an increase of durability of products, or waste manager will have to increase the percentage of reuse, etc., etc. We establish also specific links for local governments, for us, for the Catalan governments, for university and research centers, and finally for non-profit organizations. So thanks to the accomplishment of specific links, we believe we will be able to accomplish the big goal altogether. What we have done is to set all the different to define all those specific goals that we will. Our calendar is to launch the agreement at the beginning of next year with all the companies that will agree to accomplish all those specific goals. And after the launching, we will create different kind of working group in order to go deep into the different kind of details that you can see in this slide. For example, we will work in different kind of pilot project on selective waste collection. We will promote different kind of research and innovation projects. We will work on circular products, on recycling, and finally, we are working already on different kind of citizen awareness in order to imply the consumer in all this challenge. So I think it's I reached the time, isn't it, Federica?
Yes, you have been really
If you have
helpful.
any question, I can try to answer at the end of the panel. Thank you.
Yes. So I think that the Zoom link
Let
that
me
we have
stop
allows us to
sharing.
have
Yes.
direct messages. So if you send messages to me, I will then forward the questions to the speakers. But thank you so much, Mireia, because you provided an actual example of a multi-stakeholder type of collaboration that Hakan was putting forward just a few minutes ago. So I very much like the way this indirect debate is developing, and looking forward for the actual generation of the questions. So thank you. The next perspective is the one of an entrepreneur, Santi Mallorquí, who is also a member of the association Moda Sostenible, and is also the CEO at Organic Cotton Colors. His perspective will be complementary to the first two, because as Mireia was saying, there is a trend in rewarding the companies that do well. So hopefully Santi can confirm that or not. We'll listen to you, Santi. Thank you.
Federica, how can share a slide?
You can click in the bottom green icon. Do you see the share screen icon at the bottom of the screen?
Okay.
And then if you click, you can choose
green. I don't have any.
Do you want to?
Green.
Yeah, it says share screen, compartir pantalla. You see the icons of the microphone, the video, the participants in the Zoom. You can also send it to me.
I can send it to you on the chat.
If you want, you can send it via email.
I will send it to you on email.
Okay, and I will.
Okay.
See. I will, as soon as I receive it, I will Mireia, if you want to add something about the Pacte, or if the time constrained you a little bit and you want to add anything, we can.
Yes, I don't know. I want to. Maybe I can say that we believe that those companies or institutions that will participate to the agreement will have different kind of benefits. For one side, the social and sustainable benefit to commit to a global challenge, and also we believe that consumer prefer those firms that has values, as I already said. So those that participate in a project like this that has the support of the administration could have also some benefit. And also there is an investors also require sustainable criteria, especially at a European level. So I think the taxonomy is very strict in this sense. So we believe that financing it's getting more sustainable little by little. So it could be also a benefit for those companies making an effort in this sense. As we mentioned, regulation, it's every time will be more strict. So for those companies making an effort in this direction, it could be a kind of the anticipation of something that it's going to happen. So, and also working together with different kind of stakeholders has been extremely rich. In order, we have got to know each other, and different kind of pilot project has been developed during the time we are working together, and putting in contact, for example, some waste manager with some companies in order to promote new initiatives. So the way I think Hakan has already mentioned that multi-stakeholder platform, I think we are the key to transform the systems. Otherwise, there is only efforts from specific companies. So I think the governments and institutions, we have to make an important effort to help everybody to move together at the same time. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Mireia. I am trying to download the presentation by Santi, but if I have some problem, may I ask Veronica if you can step in, and maybe I will shift Santi afterwards, if you don't mind. So Veronica, she's the founder and designer at Irema Slow Fashion and the project manager at a successful event called the Trashion Fab, that is an initiative by Moda Sostenible Barcelona. And so Veronica will join all the perspectives of the private entrepreneur, but also one of the actors of these multi-stakeholders initiatives. Veronica, can you share the screen, hopefully? Perfect. Thank you. You're muted. Oh. Yes, now it should work.
Okay, sorry.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, the Trashion Fab is a project that originates from the alliance between Barcelona Sustainable Fashion Association, as Fede explained, and Solidança Treball is very well known by its Roba Amiga orange containers that you can find in the street in Barcelona and in other cities, and the association Upcycling Barcelona. Oh, I cannot, why?
You click on the screen and then...
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so our starting point is a very concrete reality. We are surrounded by tons of clothes. We know that there's more than enough stuff in the world already, so the idea of adding anything more that is not outstanding seems unreasonable. So the Trashion Fab was born from this vision. We believe that nothing is more sustainable than what already exists. So the Trashion Fab objective is to maximize the opportunities of pre and post-consumer textile waste through different recycling methods. In general terms, what we want to do is to systematize a method of textile waste management through training in eco-design, the reconversion of textile waste into new garments and new fabrics, the creation of a co-working center for the generation of jobs, for instance, for social inclusion. No? But something very important, why do we want to work with textile waste? That is to say, all the material, as Mireia explained, all the materials that become unusable after the end of the production process of any textile product. Also, for instance, clothing, towels, bedding, and drapery that can have already been purchased. No? The production as well as the consumption of clothing has increased a lot during the last years due to the current consumption model. The environmental impact of the textile industry is very high, which is why it is very, very important to find solutions in order to reduce these negative consequences. Due to the situation, the European legislation is forcing the European countries to start a selective gathering of the textile waste starting January 1st, 2025. This will require a waste management methodology for all textile waste for their further reutilization and recycling. The Trashion Fab provides an answer to this need by helping in the recycling and the recovery of textile waste. We believe in the idea of building a world with less waste. We believe that we need to push forward the change of paradigm of turning waste into resources. We see waste as a resource. So, what is important to us? First of all, to bring about more significant and sustainable change, buyer-supplier worker relationship need to be built on trust and partnership to underpin the current way international trade in garments works. Increasingly, it is becoming necessary to assume environmental responsibility, and this must go hand in hand with a social duty. This implies doing things in an ethical way. This implies interrogating fashion all the time. Also, a different kind of economy is essential for a different kind of prosperity. Let's forget for a moment about growth. We need economies that are regenerative and distributive by design. We need economies that work with and within the cycles of the living world. The Trashion Fab is organized in three main strategies. First, in order to promote a progressive circularity, the Trashion Fab offers a selective pickup service for pre and post-consumer textile waste to local textile workshops. The material gathered from this channel will be destined for shredding and further spinning, as well as the construction of new clothing. Another strategy consists in promoting optimization. To reach this objective, the Trashion Fab has a team of trainers that through different courses will lead participants into becoming expert in waste management as well as eco-design. Another strategy consists in the exchange of knowledge and resources. We want to promote a methodology based on the adaptation and development of innovative solutions for the management and reutilization of this textile waste, so it can be scalable and reproducible at both municipality and territorial level. In the future, the project seeks to create a co-working space that can become a reference space where users might find resources, knowledge, and tools to develop products based on eco-design and waste reutilization. Well, three main actions linked to these scenarios are: first, training in eco-design, as I said before; second, the recollection service of pre and post-consumer textile waste at local manufacturing workshops; And finally, the production of new clothing using textile waste fabric. So right now, we are implementing the pilot. It's a testing phase in order to see if these actions are viable or not. The pilot is partially financed by the Municipality of Barcelona, in concrete through the call Impulsem el que fas of Barcelona Activa. The pilot will be developed by a team of specialized professional teachers in textile production, spinning, pattern making, sewing, and eco-design. The grant will be destined to support the pilot project, which will have a duration of 5 months and will be implemented in the Poblenou district with the collaboration of Fundación Aret. It will cover the expenses of the salaries of the coordination teams, the teachers, 8 women that will learn about textile waste management, as well as garment construction using upcycling techniques. And furthermore, it will cover the hiring of all services necessary for its execution. In order to decide which activities and actions were a priority for the pilot, we took into account 2 scenarios. And we will talk about this after in the open questions. The first scenario has to do with the current situation of the Catalan clothing manufacture industry in relation to the new territorial and municipal policies for the prevention and management of waste, as Mireia explained. This means including research and training for the improvement of the prevention, gathering, utilization, and evaluation of these residues. So a first line of action consists in testing the recollecting service of pre-consumer textile waste to 2 local clothing manufacturer workshops. During the training, the 2 workshops participating in the program, Hispanotex and Comercial Vallès, will receive a guide with a checklist that specify the criteria for the selection of the standardized textile residues for a more efficient recycling. Regarding the second scenario, it's important to mention that in the last years, there has been an important increase in the textile projects developed in Barcelona that share the social and solidarity economy as a basis for their actions. We are lucky because the project counts with the experience of Solidanza, which through its own project, Roba Amiga, provides the knowledge and experience in relation to the inclusion of people with risk of social vulnerability. So in a second line of action, the material has already been selected at the workshop will be managed in 3 different ways. First, the useful material will be used in the eco-design training through educational modules. At the pilot phase, the main focus will be placed at the group of 8 women with social vulnerability risk, which will be provided at Fundación Aret. The training program of the pilot will develop a clothing piece, maybe a t-shirt, we don't know already, that will be commercialized. And second, the discarded material, and this is very important, that was recollected at the manufacturing workshop that is composed of 1 material, for example, cotton or wool, will be sold for spinning a new thread. And finally, the material that is not possible to recycle due to its synthetic origin will be sent for shredding and turning into fibers for upholstery or isolation. So summarizing, and with this I finish my presentation, the first line of action seeks to provide an answer to the need of the textile manufacturing industry by helping in the recycling of the waste that it generates in order to achieve the goals of the policies around waste management. The second line of action, focused on the training of the group of women at risk of exclusion, has the intention of providing them with the tools and skills to promote, empower, and also to become change maker in the manufacturing industry. I would like to show you our team. We are mostly women, 99%, only 1 man here. And most of them are volunteers that generously donate their time to make this project come true. And with this, I finish my presentation. Thanks for your attention. And if you have any question or you want to support our project, please contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vero. Very inspiring project. It's nice to see these initiatives, both private and public, and financed by the public to come up and maybe to inspire other initiatives like this. So very, very, very well done. Thank you so much for sharing it. So I would now give the word to Peggy Blum, and then we would keep Santi for the end, sorry. Peggy Blum is Assistant Professor of Practice, Sustainability, Textiles and Apparel at the University of Texas, Austin. She also recently wrote, we hope, super successful book, Circular Fashion, Making the Fashion Industry Sustainable. And we are very eager to hear your perspective to complement the previous one. Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you. I'm going to share. Choose what you would share. Okay. So let me see. I'm getting there. I'm having a little. Let me see. There we go. Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Fantastic.
Perfect. Thank you, Peggy.
Okay, so I'm having trouble seeing myself or anyone else, but I'm not sure what.
We see you and hear you.
Do you hear me? And everything's
yes,
fine.
perfectly.
You see it
Yeah.
from the beginning and everything. Okay, so here is, I guess I'll take a little bit of a different perspective. First of all, thank you for inviting me to discuss this important topic of circularity. I'm delighted to be here. When I wrote Circular Fashion, I wrote it from the perspective of two hats. I was a trend forecaster in my past life, and I pushed out a lot of trends into the marketplace in New York. And I was a lifelong consumer of fashion products. But now I'm coming to this topic of circularity as an educator. I did a lot of research in the fashion supply chain currently, and how I can translate the information, this research that I have gained, and actually make it valuable to maybe students and the average consumer who wants to learn about this topic. So it was very important for me to ensure that in the beginning that people were aware of the difference between sustainability and circularity. And I often bring this up in the beginning because we have these two terms that go hand in hand and how they work together. So I think this is a really important distinguish, is that sustainability, as we know, means to prolong our needs, to not put the needs of the future in danger, but circularity means we're constantly returning to the same point. It gives us something to do, I like to say. Well, to illustrate this, if we start off with our current supply chain, which is our linear supply chain, and many of the speakers before me have definitely raised this concern about this take, make, consume, throw away approach to resources. And where we have two wasteful issues in our current supply chain is the pre-consumer waste and the post-consumer waste. And so what can we do about this? What is it that can be done? And so in my book, I've divided this idea of a circular fashion model into 5 parts. And to illustrate this, I would like to talk to you a little bit and go a little bit into what a circular fashion model is from my perspective. This is where all the actors in the supply chain are responsible. It's a circular circle of responsibility. It can also be known as closing the loop or a systems thinking approach. But this idea is to make sure that everyone throughout the value chain, or the circular value chain, is responsible for their part in renewing resources. And I'll go into this a little bit. It's an excellent strategy when you think about it to begin shifting. And I see this with a lot of my students, this idea of going away from the thinking that I have to run out to a fabric store to create garments, is this idea of actually shifting to more of a circular mindset where design thinking becomes an important piece to that. And without going into big detail, but it's a wonderful strategy to start getting someone to create in a new way. And so, that also is important with some of the circular design considerations that I have in the book. And these are just different approaches, really, to creating a circular product. Some of them will overlap. Some of them will be more important than others. On the right here, I have a designer from Copenhagen who uses used sheets to create women's shirts. And so there is a way in which to, and I like to say educate, create awareness to people that these things can have value, that the resources that we have in front of us can have value. So I also want to talk about this idea, and if we move forward, when we're designing something or creating a circular product, where we have to see where it cycles through. And there's two ways to look at this: from a biological perspective, where we know the garment will regenerate, or it will biodegrade into the earth. And so we have this thing that we're creating, and we don't have to worry about it if it falls into the earth. And then we have things that should not fall into the earth and should not go into the landfill for whatever reason. And so it's almost like asking the question is, what do we want to do? What do we want to circulate? How is it going to affect and make either a social or an environmental impact after it has been produced? So when we're producing a circular fashion product, a designer should always ask where do I want to design, but which cycle does this product fall into? And then I really think a good strategy is to use a variety of assessment tools that are at hand. There's a couple here. This will determine whether or not you are making a social or an environment impact. The product what degree it will be produced without making greater harm to either communities, waterways, soil, climate, et cetera, et cetera. So there are things that designers can use hand in hand. So this is a movement where you take responsibility. You just don't hand it off to the next department, that you're moving it through the supply chain, and you have an investment in this product all the way through and all the way around. And I say a circle, and that's sort of what I'm saying as we move through production. Also, how can we connect? We have become a giant global assembly line. How can we connect with those who make our clothing? And I believe, this idea of, who is behind what I'm wearing today? Do I even know? And so there are organizations that are pushing, that can work with designers in helping them achieve certain relationships, better relationships, tackle issues that a lot of the people that are working on our clothes have. And they are actually a great knowledge bank that we need to connect to. And as we move into marketing, and I'm kind of going through this pretty fast. It's a fast-paced circle. I really think this idea of circular models has kind of taken fold. It's moving companies in a different way, but we should be very careful, because we cannot use these circular retail models to greenwash consumers. And I think this is some of the things that we're seeing, is that a company may do some sustainability initiative or a circular issue, but then they're on one hand, and then, if you think of yin and yang, but this idea on the other hand, they're overproducing, they're continuing business as usual. And so we have to be sure that these are great shifts towards circularity, but we have to be careful that a consumer doesn't feel like, oh, well, this company is doing all it can to increase sustainability or circularity, and so I don't have to really worry about my consumption habits. So there are new opportunities here to market circular fashion and merchandise circular fashion, and stay away from hype, and use these opportunities to educate fashion consumers in different ways. And here I have some examples that I go through in the book. Do we want to lecture, save the world, don't save the world? Can we add humor into this? and how far can we go? Do we need to build stories around the products in different ways? Can we create positive connections with our consumer? And can we build a circular ecosystem, a community around the products that we create? There's also this idea of, but we have to rethink this idea of target market that has been embedded in curriculums and design and business. And we have to start looking at the consumer more as with a new perspective on what it means to be a consumer. We know that overconsumption is an issue. How can we bring the consumer in as an activist, as a co-creator, as a user, as a citizen of the planet? And so we have a lot of things to think about here, right? And then also, this idea is, instead of allowing the consumer to decide how to dispose of it, why are we not answering this question over and over? What happens to a piece of clothing that's no longer wanted? And here we have, a couple of things that happen to it. And keep in mind, why is it on the consumer? I believe in my book, I talk about this idea of extended producer responsibility. I think this is the way to go. Why, there's people now that should take responsibility of a product that they produce into the marketplace. Why is it the responsibility of not the brand? And so these extended producer responsibility initiatives are very key. So how can we renew our resources? And in my book, I profile a circular designer from Eileen Fisher. And she talks about and discusses some of the challenges and the opportunities of circular design. It's really not that easy. And I know that Eileen Fisher in America had put out her big initiative, her green initiative, many, many years ago, and collected clothing through the Take Back program. She was so inundated with garments that she had to get another storage facility just for people who were sending back Eileen Fisher clothing. And then, they have to actually, this is a very labor-intensive process where they're going through these pieces to see what can be either sold as is with a little refreshing, or what has to be adjusted and actually redesigned, and how do these garments look, and how do we price them, how do we merchandise them. So it's a really new piece of our whole industry, which is quite exciting if we can get this moving. Most important is that we need the leaders. We need leaders now who are willing to take a risk, to look long-term, maybe not short-term. Here are the Freytag brothers. They are from Switzerland, Daniel and Marcus. And I think they're quite interesting as circular leaders because they use bicycle tires, truck tires, the rubber from that, to create messenger bags. And they've been quite successful at it. And they've piggybacked a lot on this idea of recycling, upcycling, and also moving into circularity. So I really feel like they have a lot of the qualities that are needed now with leaders in the fashion industry, visionaries, collaborative, purpose-driven, learning, that this new business model, people, planet, profit is an important one, the triple bottom line, and then also adopting a circular mindset. And how do you communicate that to your company? How do we get this shift away from a linear mindset? And in my point of view, the reason why I wrote the book is because I wanted it to be practical. I wanted students to be able to understand that this is the way forward. And I felt that a lot in America, a lot of the education is still in the linear mindset, and then maybe with a little piece of sustainability or circularity. And so how do we move this forward? How do we get leaders, and how do we get people on board to actually make circular fashion a reality? And I believe that it's through collaboration and innovation. If you look at the fashion history, the history of the fashion industry, it has actually developed through technologies and through innovations and through collaborations. And so we have to get back to that piece where we're not just, staying in our narrow lane and, you know, being competitive and worrying about, you know, this, that, or the other thing. It's really innovation and collaboration is the way forward. It will make circular fashion a reality. I have hope. The Sound of Music is my favorite movie of all time, so I believe in this. And lastly, I wanted to thank you for having me. And you can find my book in Spanish and also Chinese and English. So thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Very, very, very useful. And you are providing some valuable information for teachers that need the teaching strategy, needing to reconsider some perspective, like and some way we treat customers or we conceptualize customers. So thank you so much. We now have the presentation from Santi. So if hopefully I manage to present to broadcast it, can you see it?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. So whenever you instruct me to check the slide, I will.
Okay. Well, just first introduction, we as a brand, it's very exciting to be here. Thanks for inviting us. I am Santi Mallorquí from Organic Cotton Colors, which is a company that has been 30 years working a part of the fashion wall in the terms that we never dye and we never print, and we always used these 2-3 natural colors of the cotton, which is the ecru, widely recognized, and then the brown and the green. I was listening the word and thinking of the circularity, what it means. No, it's a nice word. We all understand the term. It's transforming the linear to circular. But don't you think that in the next years we may think in circularity as sustainability today, which doesn't mean much things? I mean, everyone is talking about sustainability and what it is, and in which term. I mean, I want to make the reflection of the if we make circularity of things, thinking on the ways that we are generating, overproducing all brands and the fashion industry, we maybe have to stop first overproductions and making those many collections. No, if we don't stop creating the future waste, we will not be able to transform it on a circular way, even in recycling or reusing it. And by the other hand, 30 years ago, my mother did a perfect circularity. They bought less and they profit when a pair of jeans was broken, and they try to repair it and reuse it for another brother or another friend. So at the end, we were buying less and reusing more and recycling, and that was a truly circularity, you know, back 30 years ago. Today is like the industry doesn't want to stop, but now has to become green. And I don't know if we will reach to present a very different numbers in terms of contaminations, of truly impact on the biodiversity on the planet, but it's only this. It's about environmental impact. But as we create that company 30 years ago, the environmental impact was not on the center of our intention. What we wanted to offer and provide to our customers, you can pass, Federica, is a cotton fiber that was not treated at any way or was untreated, and had the benefits for a lot of people that suffer skin diseases. So we were focused on the final user's health. Obviously, on this way, we benefit the planet and not contaminating as much. But when we talk about circular of certain fibers or synthetic fibers, we have to think on the quality of the result of reusing it, that synthetic fiber, and also on the health of the final user touching on the skin. No? As we may focus here on our manifesto, that's a little bit of what we have done in those 30 years and what we focus here. We selected that part, which is the most important. And we could talk on circularity also on those three concepts: health, social, and environmental. Environmental, because we only support regenerative fields and not fields that are overproduced every year on a monocultivation. Our farmers plant food and cotton so they can naturally fertilize the soil that they are using their own land in property and explore it every year. So obviously it's an organic cotton cultivation, which all know what it's about. It's rain-fed irrigation only. There is not irrigated infrastructure. And then going to the social, our commitment with the farmers go beyond, which is buying a certain quantity of cotton. So it's about giving their compromise and this ability to buy every year what they produce. So that's something that we think it's a game changer. And then it's the health, which it's not using chemicals on the treatments of our fabrics. You can pass, Federica. Exactly. Well, it's now more than 30 years doing organic cotton, not applying finishes at all on our treatments of our fabrics, and only using the color ground cotton. You can pass it. And then it becomes on what we offer, which also it's a circularity in the terms that we offer paper, we offer yarn, fabrics, manufacturing services, and everything that we can transform out of this fiber of the cotton. Well, okay, now you can pass. And here with our certifications, where you can see the QR code with all the environmental impacts and traceability and margins of our products. You can check on our website all the information that we give. You can pass it. So that's our business. And what we were today about to talk is the waste generated during our fiber transformation. So it can exist in these terms. It's a short fiber that we generate once we spin. We only make combat yarn. So 21% of the spinning process creates a 21% of short fiber that we then have to think what to do with those fiber. I cannot see the presentation. Okay, now.
You can see?
Then, exactly, now. Then the fabric that it's lost during the cutting process in our own productions or other third-party productions, the garments that can be produced with a tariff, and then the garments that our customers don't want to use anymore. So for the garments that our customers don't want to use anymore, Federica, you can pass. We developed the OCCRP, which is our recycle program, and anyone can give us a product that has to be our own brand, because in that way we assure that it's 100% cotton, organic cotton, and not dyed. So it's obviously a lot more easy to transform into a new yarn and then a new fabric. And what we are doing now, it's obviously rewarding those clients that give us a piece of our products and then stock it in order to have enough quantity to transform it in yarn in the future and create new fabrics out of this. But we have to say that being 100% organic cotton, it's not very used that our clients return products because they transform it. I mean, it's a piece of textile, cotton textile, that it's always worth it to have it at home to clean the glasses or to do many things. So we started with that program a year ago, and we are keeping the products that we produce, the tires and the overwaste of our productions, plus all these products that they return to us in order in the future to have a fabric made of all this waste. And you can pass it. And then the other thing is with this short fiber that I was talking, once we spin, this is a 21%, and we make paper out of it in Artesian in Banyoles. But we started like a year and a half ago a project with the Universitat Politècnica of Catalonia, and they start thinking how to profit that short fiber and mixing it with another fiber. In that case, we tried several, but the final results that we selected is with refiber. So we are now producing a yarn which will be a 50% of our discard fiber of the cotton, which is a very short fiber, 50%, and 50% of refibra. And we will have this yarn in order to present the new fabrics, the new generation of our fabrics, where we will have a nice touch for the refibra, which you know is like a lyocell, but the most sustainable, and then a 50% of our discard on the spinning process that we now were using it just to fill cushions or mattress or paper, but in a very low quantity. So we expect with that program to be able to present new fabrics in this way to make it a bit more circular. If you pass it.
Sure, you have 2 more minutes. Sorry for pushing on time.
2 more minutes. Okay. So, well, it's for us, it was a challenge because we didn't think much in reusing or thinking to, create a new fabric out of our products, because we didn't have, when we treat productions for other clients, we always give them the chance to keep all this waste. So normally our customers, when I say customers, I say brands that we produce for them, they keep all the waste for them. Now this waste, if they don't decide to keep it, then we keep it. But if it's diet, for example, it's a problem for us, because we cannot mix it with our fabrics. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's brown, green, or ecru, but it matters if it's a yellow diet color. So imagine the difficulty to try to profit fabrics on different fibers, mixtures, and dyeings and finishing process.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Santi, for providing such a detailed description of what is really the difficulties of being circular and having a deep dive into what is your work. So now we have a space for Q&A. I have received some questions from the audience, some questions we had already saved because we want to make sure that it was going forward. If you agree, I would start with the questions from the audience. And I have two. The first one from Dara was, while causing huge social and environmental damage, fast fashion has also been responsible for lifting many people in countries above the poverty line and has empowered many women and allowed them to become financially independent. Are there any suggestions on how to go about getting the best for both worlds with regards to circular economy and improving livelihood of people in countries in manufacturing countries? So can circularity and social sustainability go hand in hand? I don't know if maybe Hakan could open on this, and maybe we can leave the floor also to others.
Sure, thank you, Federica, and I think it's a great question. So thank you to those brilliant like the participants that are raising these questions. I think yes, and it is the way forward. We really need to craft a social dialogue. However, here the keyword is the long-term social dialogues. It really requires long-term thinking and bottom-up approaches. Here, what I'm trying to say is, this is about just transition. So we really need to bring all of those workers into this conversation when we craft circularity strategies and methodologies. So what I am seeing today is the strategies that we are creating and we are developing are made with assumptions, but we really need to bring all of those manufacturing companies and countries into the conversation, because circularity will require lots of new skills that we need to craft. And at the same time, we need to understand how we can reutilize existing skills. So it is not going to be a change overnight. We really need to, this is why we try to say this bottom-up approaches and the social dialogue. We really need to craft this landscape in which this social and environmental justice will go hand in hand is a very holistic way. And I'm leaving the floor to my colleagues, but I will be happy to further if there are additional questions about this.
You're fine. I don't know if anybody wants to complement what he said. Otherwise, I can move to the next question. Yes, Peggy.
I do. I agree with Hakan 100%. I do believe that there has to be some training and investment from companies to want to make a shift. It's nice to talk about it and perhaps think about it. But when I go back to some leadership qualities that we need leaders who will adopt a new mindset, who will show a vision, a long-term vision, and also who are willing to take the risk that, it's okay to maybe make a mistake, but as we move forward, it may, in the end result, be a very successful way of moving forward and making this partnership between people and the fashion industry, as the people as important as the garments, I would say. So yes, it's a very important piece.
Can I just one final thing? I'm sorry, Federica, but just to complement what we have been discussing, also I'm also amazed with the Santi's points about everything he is mentioning. I think here in today's conversation, not here, but in general, we are still not talking about the root cause of the problems. Root cause of the problem is overconsumption and overproduction. And these methodologies that we create in which natural fibers are measured with synthetic fibers, and it really brings an unjust space. So we really need to be clear with everything we are mentioning. And to this end, we really need to bring knowledge from the field to the decision-making tables, farmers, indigenous communities, people that make fashion, that make fabrics, that make organic materials, and at the farm level, they must be consulted with, they must be included. Otherwise, circularity will just be a strategy to sell more.
Absolutely. And in fact, this links to another question that has been raising, that is, fast fashion companies serve and occupy a big piece of the market. Is there a way for them to credibly embrace circularity? That is, given that they are so powerful, and you, Hakan, also mentioned the power imbalance in this industry, is there a possibility for the ones who are so powerful and yet so not helping to truly embrace circularity? I don't know if maybe Mireia or whoever wants to step in, feel free to step in.
Yeah, from my point of view, I would say that there is room for them to improve. I mean, we have to push them because they have very much power. So we have to go hand by hand with fast fashion company to make they understand that there is a need for a change of paradigm, and try to make them understand that we have to move from the owning to using. So to introduce new business models like servitization or renting that it has been mentioning during the presentation, in order that I think those new models are improving a lot in many other areas, like for example cars, in all the cars industry is changing very fast. So I think that the fashion industry should move also in this direction. And in fact, we know that they are having initiatives in that sense, but they are not explaining enough what they are studying. And also, I think that transparency is a key word. Also, for the first questions you mentioned, transparency. We have to ask those big companies to be transparent about their results and about what they are doing.
Thank you, Mireia. I see that Santi is raising his virtual hand.
Yes, I would just wanted to point that I guess you all know that what happened with GOTS certification in the last year, that over 20,000 tons of organic cotton were sold as organic, and there were not, and that's what says the GOTS certification. So imagine, you know, if they admit such a quantity. And the other day I was reading the news, the ecological textile news, and there was an article that was talking about the recycled polyester. I mean, a lot of productions now, they say that come with recycled polyester, and the reality is that more than 50% is with virgin polyester. And polyester today, it's almost reaching the 60% of all uses of fiber. So that's with the difficulty. I mean, I've been in a fabric of melting the polyester and creating a new yarn in India, and it's not a very friendly process. So it's not friendly for the environment, for the energy that is used, and it's not either friendly for the final user, because the quality of the result of that polyester, even in the best case that it's used like 100% of recycling, which today I think it's possible, but the reality is that most of companies doesn't use this process, and when they talking about recycling polyester, maybe only 50% or less is recycled. The other is a new polyester, and here the problem is that the price is the same or even better than the virgin polyester. So fast fashion companies will not stop producing or using synthetic fibers because of the cost, because they want to sell more and more. And well, it's not necessary that I say anything about the microplastics and what they create washing and using the synthetic fiber. So it's a very challenge situation what we have further on circularity.
Thank you, Santi. So connecting to this topic, we wanted to ask you, no, sorry, Hakan, do you want to link your comment on this?
Just to complement on what Santi was saying. We also need science and very independent and objective methodologies. Today, unfortunately, many decision-making tables and the platforms are hijacked by the industry, and the performance measures, numbers that we are seeing are not the truth because they are not done with scientific and objective and robust methodologies. this is the way. Now we are talking about LCA studies that are looking at cradle to gate rather than cradle to cradle, for which we are now comparing synthetic materials with natural fibers, and we think synthetic fibers are much better than natural fibers because they don't take into account number of times which we are using a garment. Here I want to showcase this silk shirt, which is 55 years old. This is a legacy from my father, and this is silk, and 55 years old. I am 35 and I'm bald, but this silk shirt is still intact. So what I'm trying to say, we really need honesty and objective studies to showcase the truth rather than just promoting and perpetuating growth with untold realities, because we really harm people and planets by these lies technically. So thank you, Federica.
No, it was perfect because it actually helps us connecting with the question that is, who is setting the trends in circular fashion? Like maybe saying who is the authority in circular fashion is not appropriate, but who is determining what is right and what is wrong. Now, Hakan was saying that we lack independent scientific research. So why are we companies or consumers going in a certain direction? Who is leading that direction? Who is exerting the pressures? I leave it open to whoever is brave to answer.
Okay, you can hear? You can hear me?
Yes, Vero.
Yeah? Yeah, okay. I'm in the mobile phone now, so I don't know if you can hear me well or not. Okay,
Yeah,
I don't know if someone is right or someone is wrong, no? But for me, there is a reality. For me, a first authority defining the rules in order to promote circularity is the European legislation, who is forcing the European countries to start a selective gathering of textile waste starting January 1st, 2025. No? This will require a waste management, of course, methodology for waste management for all textile waste for their further reutilization and recycling. So it will require industry and government to work together. And in the case of Catalonia, local level, authority relies on retail and municipal policies for the prevention and management of waste. The Catalan clothing manufacturer industry, for example, have to reorient its businesses mainly on the forecasted action by the new strategy of the Catalan Waste Agency, for instance, and the Metropolitan Program for the Prevention and Management of Resources and Municipal Residues, PREMED 25. I don't know if you have heard about that. That include research, training, prevention, gathering of all these textile waste. No, and there are some purposes, no, objectives for the prevention and management of these residues. No, that all these industries has to commit. No, for instance, to decrease the generation of textile waste. This is a reality. They must. They have to increase the gathering capacity of post-consumer textile waste. No, they have increased the recyclability, the recycling and fibers, threads, and recycled textile. They have to do that. Have to explore new alternatives for eco-design and upcycling textile waste. So this is a must. They are putting the rules and the law. And all these enterprises has to have the rules and the laws that they're promoting.
Thank you, Veronica. I don't know if anybody wants to complement her answer. Otherwise, oh yeah, Peggy.
Well, I wanted to say that I think it's really important for industry to take a stance on this, obviously, the fashion industry, but we also need to understand where we are training the new generation. And the new generation is inheriting these broken systems that we have created. I remember I was in a class and a student asked me when I was speaking about circularity and sustainability, and I had a very doom and gloom kind of a presentation where I was exposing a lot of statistics and research, and it seemed very depressing. And he raised his hand and he said, well, you had your fun, why can't we? And so there is an emotional attachment or emotional piece to fashion. It's also discovering who you are, it's going out, it's redefining. We have a whole internet explosion of social media, Instagram, constantly being, you know, status is in, this. So all of this is sort of this cloud that's hanging over the generation that's coming up into the industry. So how is it that we can help them shift? Because as much as we are in the industry now and making these changes in government and et cetera, we have a whole group of people that are coming up through through our educational system in fashion schools, in universities, that maybe not being taught 100% that sustainability and circularity are the future, and that there might not be another choice or another option. So these also, as brands do their little sidebar of, you know, sustainability, circularity, and then continue to overproduce the same business as usual, universities and colleges can also be teaching the same way and having a little sidebar of sustainability or circularity. And so, and also going into even middle schools or young, elementary schools, starting early with an education of what it means to be a citizen of the world in a responsible manner. So there's a lot to do in this other piece, that even though there's, as professionals and academics, we have a responsibility to kind of bring up a new generation into exploring, and it's okay to make mistakes. This is all new territory for many people, but I worry that it's not being brought up sooner in education, and it needs to be explored more. That needs to be, I don't know. I'm using my hands now because I've lost my words. I'm sorry.
Well, actually, one of the members of the Association Moda Sostenible Barcelona is doing exactly that, and they're very successfully creating programs and Instagram accounts and workshops for kids in the primary school, and it's a beautiful project. And it's connecting to some of the questions that are emerging from some of the participants. One was, can we really talk about circularity without degrowth? And if we take the perspective of marketing or advertisement in particular, how much advertising is really sustainable or circular, and how much it is not, since we're actually trying to reduce consumption? Wants to dare. Sure.
I'll just start it with a presentation I saw in Copenhagen, the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, where a young team, it was a startup, came on the stage and said, don't say the S word. Don't say it, because it's so overused. And so this idea is that people are tuning out. Right? So are we moving away from sustainability to circularity? So this whole idea of how are people tired of hearing save the world? Are people tired of hearing the word sustainability or sustainable? It's being overused, it's being used in greenwashing ways. And so how do we shift that to make people interested in the topic, and not to get the average person interested and get people to buy into this, and not so, keep it at a power level, I think was mentioned before, and honesty and being authentic. And, I would go to the summit and hear H&M, and they would be, H&M would be sponsoring the summit. I mean, so there's so much yin and yang to this. It's yeah. So but I do believe in it. I think it's one way that obviously we're going to move things forward, but you know, it's going to take almost I always think of like Fred Flintstone's big boulders, really like trying to push this thing forward. And it's like, okay, when is it going to move? You know? Okay, well, that was what I had to say.
That's a very clear image. Thank you. I think Hakan wants to.
Just to complement on what Peggy was brilliantly saying, again, I will go back to the representation, because many of those platforms are hijacked by the industry, and we are looking at solutions at the wrong places, because the decisions are made in a very exclusive way, and they are creating convenient solutions for themselves, not for what we need in terms of radical change. When it comes to advertising, bingo, this is one of the bottlenecks. But now legislations are actually coming to save us from this greenwashing and blue washing landscape. Now the European Union, starting from UK and France, they are pushing legislations forward, because greenwashing is at rife, and we are seeing lots of commitments and numbers, but nothing has been supported with specific studies. So we are not really understanding what are those numbers are accounting for. So now there's a landscape in terms of regulations that will actually change this. But here, I would like, again, going back to the education and importance of honesty is the fundamental thing. We can't become circular when we are just trying to sell more with circular fashion garments. We really need to change the business model. Business models should be transformed into circularity. It cannot be done with a bunch of incremental actions as business as usual. We need absolutely a new paradigm, which will not be financial growth with eco-efficiency. It will be people-centered. You can name it degrowth, we can name it people-centered growth, but at this very moment, we don't have that. Unless we put people in the center, unless we put people and knowledge in the center, nothing will actually, nothing will be changed. Here, Peggy was mentioning something, a very important keyword, purpose. We need purpose-driven designers and purpose-driven managers. And I also would like to, and I'm sorry, I talk so much, but this is my last sentence. I also want to challenge the term consumer. I refuse to be called someone to consume. I am a citizen and I'm a conscious person, and I should be active with my choices. So we also should really challenge the way we are defined by the society, which is based on financial growth logic. So we also are responsible equally to make this social dialogue happen. Thank you so much.
I would vote for Hakan, whatever he says. I love it.
I wanted to say that it's a pity because the Circular Economy Action Plan of the European Union talks all the time about consumers, not about citizens. So it's crazy. Yeah. We consider citizens only as a consumer, even in the Circular Economy Action Plan. Sorry.
No, absolutely. And Santi, please.
Yeah, well, I want to think that all these green fashion companies and all these messages and advertisement that they are doing on these past 4 years, I want to believe that this has been better than imagine that they didn't do it. I mean, I want to believe that the people out there, those citizens or those consumers, with those messages, a part of them, not all of them, but part of them will thought and think what this is about, and will become maybe more curious to find the truly information that today it's available for anyone that really wants to understand what's happening and which actions as a consumer can take to minimize the impact. I really think this way. I mean, I congrat that all big fast fashion companies talk about sustainability because I want to believe that a customer that minimum cares about it will think which is the business that they are supporting, consuming on that brand. And then another thing to take an account is that we all know that the truly impact is done on the post-consuming habits for washing those clothes, and how many times they wash and at what temperature and with which chemicals used. So we can push companies to make circularity if then consumers wash their clothes twice a day, as sometimes with my nephews I see certain habits of throwing the clothes on to wash them very, very often, and that's not good at all, And when we create more microplastics and we create more it's a problem to take in account in this circularity results and things to do.
Thank you, Santi. I would just make one last question, and then I would thank you all to link it to the topic of consumer or active decision maker. Someone said that it is not true that people vote only once a year or once every 4 years. Every time you buy something, you cast a vote. So the problem is, how much can we expect from customers? And how much do they know? And even assuming that they know, or we know, because we are users, consumers, and decision makers, how much can we load a regular person with their life and their duties to think about the responsibility of the supply chain? So what can we expect from active citizens who are purchasing fashion? Because they're not like us, we're working on this. I saw some hands, but I don't know who wants to go. Peggy, and then Hakan.
I generally say you don't walk into a store and ask a sales associate, may I please see your supply chain? It's not that easy with fashion, because fashion has this idea of fantasy, escapism, beauty, glamour, et cetera, sexy. And so you really don't care about that in the moment when you're going to buy a fashion garment. And that's a problem. I did an article, a woman was writing an article for the Financial Times in London and asked me to talk to her about it. And her quest was, every summer I go to a pond in Hampstead Heath, and I worry about my swimsuit generating the microplastics in the pond. And so can you help me? Because I'm doing an article and I'm looking for swimsuits that don't generate microplastics. And so between the two of us, we did a lot of research. And generally, it was very, very difficult to find a swimsuit that would tick all the boxes of fashion and also not shed the microplastics. Because, and you can look at everybody, you can look at Stella McCartney, you look at all these designers that are tooting the sustainable horn, yet the swimsuits are not sustainable. So we have this dialogue, and I think that is the piece that we are up against, is the consumer being emotional, the consumer wanting more from that garment than actually just a garment. There's more emotion attached to that. There's just more attached to a piece of clothing than just a piece of clothing for a lot of people. It's a life changer. It's an aspiration. It's this, that, and the other thing. And so it's a very hard piece to get us to. So it goes back to education. How do you compose a narrative that will grab a consumer or a user's attention, a citizen's attention? Can we get these users to co-create the product? Many companies are doing that. Can we get them in an ecosystem? Can we get them? It's a buy-in, but it would be great to be able to go to a store and say, "Can I?" and have a user say, "Can I see your supply chain?" And the sales associate is like, "What?" But
I want to do all of them. They hate me.
Yes, so I don't remember the question, but I did have a couple of
It
comments.
was to the point. Thank you. And I think Hakan wanted to say something more.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Federica. Just quickly wrap up. This is a very comprehensive conversation, but we all need each other, and each citizen, each consumer, each stakeholder must act upon the solution, and this requires behavioral change. We can't expect fashion companies to change something unless that change starts from within. So as also, again, as a citizen, I should be acting with my choices, for which we should be talking more and more and more. And how Santi was again mentioning the health aspect. The skin is the largest organ that our bodies have, and everything we put on, it just like that goes into our body and our heart and our soul. So chemicals are quite critical. With every choice in terms of food, in terms of consumption, in terms of fashion, we are in this consumption society. We should also challenge that paradigm and narrative, not just with fashion, with every choice we have. And also, we don't underline this in this aspect, but lastly, I also want to say fashion is also consuming creative resources. Designers are forced to produce more and more. Also, there is mental health issue attached to fashion. So this is a very big, like I always give this example. To me, sustainable fashion is like an onion. You start peeling it, and then you end up crying because it gets bitter and you don't reach the core. So it's like the peeling an onion, but we will get there. We just need to act all together.
I will cite you. Yes, it's perfect. I think that on these words we could close the meeting, and thank you all for participating. Thank you, Hakan, Peggy, Santi, Mireia, and Veronica for sharing your unique perspectives, but so inspiring, and hopefully we can keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for being here and for all the ones who participated. Really, it's been a pleasure. I wish you happy holidays. And we will
Thank
see
you to
Thank you
everyone.
all.
in
Lovely
the next
meeting
one.
you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.